PR Connections Radio presents the Love of Business podcast. The Love of Business, nurturing the entrepreneurial spirit.
All right, welcome to the Love of Business podcast. I'm your co-host, Davin Sundvick, and joined with me today is Nick and Edgar. Nick's our guest, and Edgar's our other co-host here. So, Nick, if you could just give a moment here, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, introduce yourselves to the guests, then Edgar, and then myself will kind of close it up before we get into some questions for you.
Yeah, Nick. I own Tower Training Academy and Infinite Fidelis Consulting. Work within the green energy market, doing wind turbine training for technicians, and then also helping out individuals with their professional development, resume writing, interview prep, and some job placement pieces.
Rock on. Edgar.
Hey, my name is Edgar Rodriguez. As Davin mentioned, I am the other co-host of the Love of Business podcast, and I am a business coach where we help business owners grow, scale, and get more time back through business coaching. Davin?
Yeah, so I'm Davin Sundvick. For our guests that are new to the show, I own a real estate brokerage right here in Southern Nevada. So mainly focus on, training the agents, but handle transactions and giving advice as well. So with that being said, Edgar, we've got some questions for Nick here. What's our first one?
Well, first and foremost, Nick, thank you for being a guest on the business podcast and for the Love of Business and being able to share your journey, right? And taking the time, because that's one thing we can't get back. So can you share with us, Nick, can you share your personal journey and how that led to your journey to business?
Oh, well, I appreciate the opportunity to even be on the show, so it's not a problem at all. A little bit about my journey. I started out in the military. I served my country for about 20 years, and as I was coming to the end of my career, I was looking at what was the next step, right? And so I tried a lot of different career paths, and then I found the wind industry and really fell in love, not just with the industry, but also the treatment of prior military service veterans. And so I really, really enjoyed it. I started out doing a lot of different pieces, blade repair, torque and tension operations, and then got into the other side of instructing and teaching it. And as I helped with the instruction and teaching pieces, I started developing programs for other companies, and I really got into the program and project development of a wind program. And when I came into a little bit of an inheritance, I decided to take that money and build a program that I knew that the industry would benefit from, because when you're working on it from just an instructor side of the fence, people will take some of your ideas. They won't take some of the other ideas, because again, it's going to be the opportunity cost piece, right? So even though I could see from having been inside the industry on both sides, where it's the development of the technician and being a technician myself, what do these technicians really need for not just right now, but also to be prepared for everything that's coming tomorrow? And so that is what goes into my thought processes for developing all of my curriculum and all of the pieces that I have added to my program for these technicians going forward.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's not just about, the journey in business, right? But like how you tied in your military experience, right? So number one, thank you for your service to our country, and how you took what you learned in the military and have applied it into business, right? It's those leadership skills and knowing that power is going to change over time. We're getting into the green energy era where a lot of more families, more businesses are starting to embrace it, right? Not just here in America, but this is across the country. Like this is across the globe. So you're in a great position, right, for what's to come for the future. And not only that, but you said something that resonated, right? It's the innovation that that is going to change with time, right? Not only that, but you're also investing in your technicians, right? Your people, your team. So that's huge. Davin, anything you want to add before I jump on to the next question?
Oh yeah, I love that you took your industry experience and you created a niche out of it, because those are some of the, in my opinion, the best products, the best things that an entrepreneur can do. Because I didn't realize how important being a broker would be until I was an agent for a couple of years first. And I saw the problems in this industry. I saw why people quit. And I was like, man, like some of these problems, they are solvable, right? Like there's no reason why this should be happening. Other than the fact that nobody's doing the work, or just somebody in this state isn't doing, the work in this area, so very, very cool to see you doing that in the energy industry there.
Go ahead, Nick.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to share that watching Nick grow, because I've gotten to know Nick through the Bunker Labs cohort, and seeing his growth in who he's become, and how he's gotten so involved and connected to the military, and even moving his entire family down here is just really inspirational to see, and how much passion he has for watching our community thrive.
Nice. Very cool.
That actually leads to my next question is how does your passion and love for your business affect your day-to-day life, Nick?
Well, very luckily for me, I have probably the best wife on the planet. So she allows me to be able to take some of those home pieces and, put those onto her plate so that I can focus on the business piece. Because with this, I mean, you're having to also invest into others as well, not just myself, but it's their development and the ability to help them out with their credentials, but at the same time, having to go through all the other learning processes, because with becoming a wind turbine technician, when you think of a wind turbine, think of it like a laptop. The technology is constantly moving forward, constantly changing. There's updates, upgrades, all kinds of new pieces coming to the table. And it's hard to play catch up sometimes. So having to go to expos and conventions and things of that nature to learn what's really going to be, coming down the pipe that technicians need to be ready for, or even schoolhouses like myself need to be ready for, as far as having the teaching pieces and having all of the training simulators and everything else ready to go. So that way the new technicians are able to meet the new standards. It's one of those things where you really kind of have to ingrain into yourself the habits of, hey, just because I'm ready for today doesn't mean that's it. You have to always be ready for everything coming down the pipe tomorrow. It's one of those things that we learn in the military, that, hey, I mean, we can't be settled for just today. We have to know what's going on tomorrow and be prepared for everything tomorrow. So every day is a training day, no matter what.
Yeah. And you said something critical, right? It's in the military, we were taught that complacency kills, right? And in business, staying complacent can leave you behind. If you don't see the trends, or you're not keeping up what's going on in the marketplace, and you're not finding ways to innovate and keep up, or be the leader in creating that innovation, that could leave you behind. So very, very interesting. And another thing that you said, and probably the most important, is you have a solid rock at home, right? Your wife allows, a lot of us, right, in this entrepreneurship journey, we have to have a strong piece at home that's going to support us to take these leaps and bounds, because entrepreneurship is risky, right? It can be risky, but the satisfaction that we get, and the gratitude for pouring into others and building our own community is what's awesome.
Yeah, Edgar, you hit it exactly. It's what I was going to talk about at the end there. I love, Nick, how you started talking about about your wife, mainly because I think people really underestimate how hard it is, how easy it is to be successful in business, and then also how hard it is to maintain that relationship at home after you've become successful in business. I think people really, really overestimate the difficulty of making money in business, and then they underestimate all their home needs. So yeah, having that and recognizing that importance, because yeah, in business you got to invest into other people, and that leaves a gap, to be filled. And if that person at home can fill that gap, you've got something very special there. So always excited to hear success at home too.
Because it's not just when you're saying investment in people. I mean, that's that symbiotic relationship between my schoolhouse and then that student, right? They're coming to me saying, okay, my understanding is this is the best thing since sliced bread, if you will, right? So they're coming to me with their expectations. I have to be able to meet those expectations. And just like with any entrepreneur, you're going to be a plate spinner. You're going to have to be able to spin all of those plates. And when you have a teammate that can be able to take some of that load off, it just makes things all that more, I don't want to say easier, but more fluid.
Yeah, 100%. Now, this next question is one of those that we like to understand, right? Because we have peaks and valleys when it comes to business, and not only in business but our personal lives. So, for you, Nick, can you describe a challenging moment in your business journey and how your passion and love helped you overcome that?
Well, when I was first coming down here to Vegas, one of the main pieces of my program is obviously I'm going to have a place to train these folks. The way that things are regulated, you can't just be like a pop-up restaurant with this. You have to have a fixed facility. You have to have insurances and other pieces in place, and it's got to be a facility where people can come and train. So finding a facility was downright just almost, it really did seem like it wasn't going to happen. It seemed like it was impossible, because you have to have a very, again, niche, like Davin said, it's a very niche market. So finding a facility that met all of the needs was very, very difficult. It took the better part of almost about 6 to 8 months just to find the facility that I was able to get now. But it was every day of seeing, hey, I think this is going to work out. I think this is going to work out. You've got to have that stick-to-itiveness, almost like a stick in the mud. I mean, I listen to David Goggins. He's one of the people that I listen to, and I read his books. I mean, you have to have that you just don't know me mentality with it, that, hey, I'm tomorrow. It's going to always happen tomorrow, no matter what. It's going to happen tomorrow. And seeing that carrot at the end of the stick, the brass ring, and stick to it. Because if you don't, you're just going to sacrifice the dream for yourself. But the dream is, hey, I've got to be able to see it and will it into existence sometimes. And it took 6 months. And just the understanding that it's not literally going to happen tomorrow, but it will happen tomorrow. And understanding that you are going to make it happen regardless of whoever it is you are, whatever the dream it is. But I just had to realize that it will happen tomorrow. Yeah,
there's a lot to unpack there, Nick. Is number one, the positive mindset, right? Knowing that you have to have that positive outlook, but at the same time you have to maintain realistic, right? Not only that, but you mentioned, David Goggins, his mind is on a whole nother level, right? There's nothing that man cannot do if he puts his mind to it, right? But it's the word that you used, right, is grit, right? Grit is what you have to have in business, and it's the passion that will, when your passion for business is big enough, the how will happen, right? When your love for the business and how strong it is, everything else will flow through. So that's something that I picked up, and that's massive when it comes to what the audience is looking for.
Yeah. And Nick, by the way, so I actually have firsthand experience, because I've actually done what you've done, but with clients over and over and over again when it comes to commercial property. So, whenever you have an industrial type business and you're looking for property, it is oftentimes the criteria just gets so niche. Like you have all these properties to choose from, and then it's like, well, we need this size. Well, we have this budget. Well, we have to have this room configuration. Well, we have to have this zoning, and then all of a sudden, you have like one option at a time, or sometimes two. It can be very frustrating. So it takes, I like to call it just determination. Like you just know you're going to be successful. You just don't know when, but you just know you are, right? So the fact that you're able to find a building, in the industrial space in general is, it's an accomplishment. It's hard to do. So
no, I found a really, really good space. Not to go off too far to the left, but no, I found a really good space, really happy with it. And like I said, just understanding that it was going to happen tomorrow and having that mindset, it's going to happen. That's just one of those things that you got to have.
Yeah. Good stuff there.
Yeah. Leads to my next question, Nick. How do you align your business goals with your personal passion and values?
So I try not to, because one of those things is you can't take work home, right? But with those pieces that do intertwine, it's just the love of helping people and seeing, especially when you have students, it's those light bulb moments, as we like to say, is like, oh, aha, when you go from actually teaching something by PowerPoint or through the book method, and now the students, they get their hands on it and they have those aha moments. Those are the pieces that I really, really kind of embrace and live for, because now they're actually going through, again, this is going off to the left a little bit, but there are 4 phases of learning. Right, you have the introductory phase where that's where you teach somebody, 1 + 1 = 2. Okay, great. Then you have the rote memorization. That's where you ask the student, what's 1 + 1? 2. How do you know? Well, I just know that gets you to ask the next student. I just know that I've answered the question. Now you move on, right? I don't know. I don't understand the whole concept piece, but I just know that gets you to move on. Okay, great. Then you have the conceptual phase. That's where, okay, I get it. 1 + 1, 2. Got it. I get it. And then you have the 4th phase, which is the mastery. And so it's the same philosophy as Bruce Lee, where I'm not afraid of the person that has practiced one kick, or 10,000 kicks one time. I'm afraid of the person that has practiced one kick 10,000 times and knows 10,000 ways to apply it. And so it's those pieces that I deal with in business, of teaching those folks all of the different ways of they can apply this one technique and these one pieces of theory to be able to take care of this giant apparatus, or even worse comes to worse, they're in a bad situation, they have to do some type of a rescue. But I take those same principles and practices and processes, and I put those into my business of, okay, what am I not knowledgeable on? What do I need to become knowledgeable on? And how do I start to master those pieces? Because again, I don't know everything, but I also have to surround myself with the people that do know what I don't know. And so I add those pieces to the Rolodex as well. So it's understanding what you don't know, because what you don't know can kill you. So what don't I know? Who's better at it? And how do I get them into my fold? So that way we're ready to go and we can take care of whatever obstacle that is in front of us.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% there. And I couldn't have said it better myself, Nick. It's the people we surround ourselves with, right, is one of the keys to business. On top of that, it's what we don't know and embracing that, right? Moving our ego to the side to say, okay, I don't know this aspect of business. Who does? How do I get in contact with them? And how do I bring them in so I can learn from them, right? And that's one of the critical components to networking, right? When you do network and you go out and find relationships, you got to find the ones that are going to add value to you, and vice versa. How can you add value to them, right? How are you going to propel them from barriers or obstacles that we've all faced? right? And those mentors or their centers, their influence that we start to build and surround ourselves with, they've already been on that journey, so they understand and they want to pay it forward. So something that I've always talked about is when as we're making it in business, never forget the people that help pay it forward for you to pay it forward back.
Yeah, absolutely, Edgar. And I think it's interesting. We've got 3 people here who are all in somewhat of an education based position within the entrepreneurial world. And I think I think most entrepreneurs have to, at some point in time, learn how to teach people, right? Because like Nick was talking about, you got multiple phases, and yeah, you can teach somebody just the basics, and they can get so far with it. But teaching somebody how to master something, like the learning how to learn process, is how you have to leave people, because otherwise, you have to know everything. And Nick, you hit the nail right on the head. I can't know everything, right? So I have to be able to leave people with them being able to be an expert in something. Eventually, one day, that's something I could never have had the time to be an expert in. So good work there.
Yeah, we've got time for, I'm going to say 1, maybe 2 more questions, but this one is a good one. Nick, what advice would you give others who want to turn their passion into a business?
If you're trying to turn your passion into a business, just one little word of caution is try to make sure you're not turning your hobby into a job. Right? Just because you find it fun, just because you find it interesting, because you find it to be great, doesn't mean it's what the world wants. What it is that you're bringing to the table is a symbiotic relationship. So, for example, you may have, maybe you sell apples, right? What makes your apple better than anybody else's apple, right? And everybody buys apples, everybody likes apples. Okay, great. So you have something that's similar to the market that people know. Now, let's say you're the only pineapple vendor. Okay, well, maybe I'm in the mood for a pineapple, maybe I'm not. I'm an apple guy. I'm going to go buy an apple. Maybe not everybody likes pineapples. So whatever it is that you're bringing to the table, to the market, is it something that, I don't want to say everybody, but there's a market for it, that everybody, around the neighborhood is going to either join into that activity or that piece, or people, because again, we're in Las Vegas, right? So everybody comes out here to, have fun. So while people are coming out here to the tourists, I want to go do that. Think of some of the things that people do out here. They go to the dune buggy ranges, they go to the firing ranges, things of that nature. What are you bringing to the table? Or is it just you think it's fun, and so now you want for it to succeed? Make sure it's not just something that's, an expensive hobby, and it truly is a business.
Yeah, 100%. Number one, it's got to be scalable, right? And profitable. Because I found that in business coaching, right? When we're coaching when we've coached business owners, there are certain businesses that we won't take on just for the simple fact that it's still in the idea to income phase. And for them, what they're looking for is like, hey, how do I turn this into a profitable business? In our wheelhouse is taking business owners who are already, creating success, but they want to scale and grow faster. So the advice you're giving is phenomenal, right? It's knowing that, what is the marketplace asking for, right? Number one is knowing that. Number two, how scalable is it, and is it a viable business, right? Turning a passion into a business has to resonate with what the marketplace is looking for. And knowing that you're not buying a job, right? You're not buying a job, you're building a business.
Yeah, no, all good stuff. I think something to kind of help the listeners maybe understand, like if you do have that expensive hobby or that passion, right? Some of the people that made the biggest amount of money in the gold rush were not people mining for gold. They were people selling tools to the miners, right? So like, you know what I mean? Right. So if you got an expensive hobby, there's got to be tools. There's got to be some type of product that has a demand in that hobby that you can find supply for and make a better mousetrap, right? But yeah, just the fact that you have a product at the end of your hobby that you enjoy doing, like, whether it's soap making or whatever you enjoy doing. If you like growing pineapples, right? Doesn't mean people are going to pay enough money for your pineapples for you to actually break even. So yeah, I love that analogy there. But yeah, I do want to let people know that there's opportunities where they don't even know that they exist. So yeah, don't be too disappointed.
It's all a matter of how does it fold, right? And so, for example, when you look at some of the veterans coming out of the military, I mean, I don't want to say everybody, but a ton of them, they come out with, hey, I'm going to just make a T-shirt idea, right? It's like, or I'm going to have a coffee idea. I'm not saying you're wrong. Like it's a bad idea, but what's your spin on it, right? I mean, you've got to have a particular spin on it. So, or like you said, Davin, I mean, what's the other side of that? Maybe I have a printing press. Okay, you want to have a T-shirt. Cool. I've got a printing press. Let's make T-shirts together. It's your T-shirt, but I'm just printing it. So what's your spin on that idea? Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Or you got the ink, that goes on the shirts, or whatever it is.
That's well said, Nick. It's what's your unique selling proposition?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Good stuff. I do think we have time for just one quick question before we close out here. So, Edgar, what do you got? Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah. So the final question, Nick, is there The final question is, are there any unexpected ways in which your business has influenced or been influenced by the community?
Oh, absolutely. I always leave myself to learn from others because you never stop learning. So the community, some of the things that they've shown me and helped me to grow my business and pivot, if you will, because even though you have a direction you want to go, it's not always a straight line to the goal. You have to understand that sometimes you have to pivot, make little turns, make adjustments and adaptations. But again, you can't do it all on your own. I've had to lean on others within the community to learn, how does this actually work? So you have to be a little more fluid and not rigid with things, go with the flow on some things. And that has really helped me get to where I want to be. For example, helping me out with building my apprenticeship piece. I've leaned on a lot of the workforce development individuals to show me and guide me on certain pieces for building this, because again, there are things I don't know. And so even though I know where I want to be, how to get from point A to point B, again, it's not always a straight line. I've got to be, flexible and ability to pivot. I think people need to understand that sometimes just because it doesn't go the exact way you want it to go, doesn't mean it's going the wrong way. It just means you have to pivot and adapt to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. Adaptability and knowing, hey, what is the next move, right? It's like almost like playing chess. You got to know the move before it actually happens and foresee what could potentially be happening. Davin, do you want to wrap us up?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, when it comes to sticking and moving, I mean, I think that's one of your advantages as a small business. Like when you first get started, you can shift so much faster than a large business can. So it's like if you don't use that one advantage that you have, it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? In a race that you could win, right? You can win the adaptability game in the small business world. Then once you grow, you got to be a little bit more selective about your direction. But yeah, it's way underutilized in the small business world. And with that being said, I know we got to close out here. So let's just have each one of us just kind of give maybe 30 seconds to a minute. If there's something that you wanted to bring up that maybe you didn't get a chance to say, great time to say it. Or just maybe some feedback about what you got out of the podcast today. We'll start with Nick, then we'll go to Edgar, and then I'll wrap us up. And Nick, if you don't mind, at the end of whatever you have to say, make sure you give us some contact information in case somebody listening wants to help you out in your business or wants to be a part of what you're doing.
You got it. No, I appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak with you guys on both some pieces of business development, but at the same time, my personal journey. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's one of those things. I don't really talk about myself too much. It's more always about my students, right, and making sure they have what they need. So as far as, either wanting to be a part of the business or if you want to be a wind technician, just go ahead and do a Google search for Tower Training Academy. We're on the north side of Las Vegas over by the Raceway. Phone number is 725-272-9495. And you can always find me. My name's Nick Martocci. There's very few of us on this planet. So if you do a Google search for Nick Martocci, I promise I'm going to come up.
Edgar.
Yeah, I'm going to say for me, there was a lot. That you shared, Nick, and I appreciate you taking the time, for being a guest on the Love of Business podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Rock on. I think my favorite thing about this episode is we touched on some very realistic things that people can do to be successful and people can keep in mind of, because it's not always these super complicated things that lead to success. Sometimes it just means leaving your ego at the door and accepting that there's a good way to do it, right? And Nick, I think you've brought up some really, really great ways that you've either became successful or things that you've realized in order to become successful. So with that being said, that's all I got to say. Thank you, everybody, for watching the Love of Business podcast. Thank you, Nick, for joining us today. And we will see you guys next time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.